Good evening and welcome to FTB Sport, where we're going to talk about yesterday's curtain raiser, known as the Charity Shield. So if you like the show, share it, please, on Twitter, on Facebook. We've got a great Instagram account now. Just go for it. Tell your friends. Doesn't have to be City fans. Doesn't have to be Leicester fans. The key phrase is FTB Sport. Okay, and I'm joined by Mr. K tonight from Paxton Road TV.
Thank you for having me, Ian. Thank you for having me.
As neutral as you can get, commenting on Leicester. So,
well, I think basically, I think there's a certain
quick stat on the game. Wembley Stadium is actually getting pretty good for Leicester City. They've won 3 consecutive matches at Wembley Stadium, whereas City, who you'd have thought would be an expansive team on a big pitch, have actually lost 3 of their last 4 games at Wembley Stadium. Interesting. But a curtain raiser, you could challenge. City maybe only had 3 of the players who maybe will start next week. And I think Leicester had 4 or 5. But again, it's an even and entertaining game. Mr. K, what were your perceptions, sir?
I thought at the beginning, City did what they did, showed a bit of class, get themselves a free kick, get within striking range. That was about the only hideable note that they did before Leicester City showed exactly what their intentions were. Very quick turnover passes, back to the front, right to the front, bang. Should have been a goal. The link-up play was exceptionally good. Nadini, I'm sure I'm pronounced his name. Nadidi, right? Sorry, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
He was in a cup final, any final whatsoever. You need that type of strong character who's going to be everywhere to prevent plays from turning into dangerous things. And he was that character today. Nobody in City showed up for that. But I thought it was an enthralling match. I thought, the 89th minute, a penalty on the 89th minute, both sides had opportunities, plenty of opportunities to nick a goal well before that. Mahrez was the classic. I don't know why on earth he didn't score. Instead of him going a bit left, he should have stayed a little bit more middle, and the defender would have been behind him. Nadini wouldn't be able to get around him without getting a red card. Okay? Yeah. So I think fatigue set in there, and he tried to cut across. That was silly. If he went cut across and stayed in front, that would have been either a goal or a penalty, and red card as well. So that's mental fatigue. I think Leicester showed they were fresh. They were up for the fight. You could see that there was more team bonding between them. So I think what you have there is really Brendan Rodgers' effect of young players being bled in by getting a trophy, and now another one. Now they've got a taste for it. So let's see what they come up with this season.
Do you think pre-season plays a big part in that? I mean, Man City usually go to America. They play United. They'll play Bayern Munich in pre-season. In the way that, Tottenham and Arsenal fought it out today, getting sharp, getting ready. What did City do? Oh, they played Preston and Blackpool. And Mahrez looked great. Oh, he looked world-class against Preston and Blackpool. And in highlight, actually, City didn't do as well against Preston as Hull City did yesterday, as a point. Now, in terms of preparation for a game like the Charity Shield against a Leicester team, where you've got some key players there like Maddison and Vardy who haven't played in the Euros, who are fresh as hell, Ashley Barnes frothing at the mouth, ready to come back. And we also have to remember that I think it was game 6 of last season, Leicester beat City 5-2 with 3 Vardy hat-tricks. Playing that classic Leicester game of rope-a-dope and beat City up that game. So on that basis, was this always going to happen?
Preparation's absolutely everything for a season. I remember about a year or 2 years ago when Poch was coming into a season after having done the final of the Champions League and saying, this is the worst preparations ever had for a season. Now, if you can imagine that summer compared to this summer for Man City, his players, the majority of his players, half of them would be out there playing in the Euros. They're not really getting the break that they needed from last season. Because, whether we as fans understand or not, for players to go in during COVID times has been an exhausting mental task to do. And they've kept at it, and they've entertained people while they've been at home. So it's been an essential task. But it does have its toll on your energy reserves inside, that get up and go factor. Now, Vardy and a lot of the Leicester players, they came off the success of last season with that FA Cup. So they were on absolute high. A lot of their boys got to relax got and that time that they spent meant that they had loads of energy. As soon as they came back, they were raring to partner up with each other and start practicing those little, little flicks and tricks and passes, the three-way triangle movement going forward in terms of passing. So you have three people moving forward, and the way they pass the ball to each other is slick. It only becomes slick through practice and relative engagement recently. So your muscles are still remembering those things.
Memory muscle, yeah.
Yeah. So in that regard, as a unit, Leicester had that capacity on full strength. So what that meant is that in this particular game, when they had the opportunity, when they turned the ball over, or when there was a lapse in Man City's concentration or energy level, they were able to very quickly zip the ball to the other end and have a go, have a chance. And that's exactly what they did. And that was their strategy, was to hold firm and then when you get your opportunities to move the ball forward as quickly as possible to beat Man City's sluggish gladiatorials. They've been away for they haven't had proper break. They haven't got to bond with each other. They're all rich millionaires. With so many different people trying to get hold of them to do different things, commercial rights, this, that, and the other, all that type of, their lives are busy. By Leicester comparison, they're not. They're enjoying the lovely sunshine, and they're enjoying the lovely grass, and they're doing the one thing they love doing more than anything else, touching the ball and moving it around. Don't forget, these boys love football, and it showed today. It showed in the match.
Just to get there, for Leicester to be in the Charity Shield, they had to beat Chelsea in the FA Cup final. And Chelsea were really on song at that stage. Chelsea were miles bookies' favourite. They were playing some great football and then obviously took that on into the Champions League final. But Leicester still did them. I know it was a tussle, and you'd have thought Leicester were going to lose that at one stage. When Schmeichel saved right near the end of that cup final, you knew it was going to be their day. They carried that on. Lovely to see Ashley Barnes back. Lots of pundits would say if he'd been fit all through last season, he might have been a Euros player. I think he's 23. If Leicester can keep him hot, and they blooded their new forward that they want to play alongside Vardy. I can't remember the name of the guy, but I know they really rate him and they blooded him alongside there.
Dakar.
Positives for Leicester. They were out the blocks bloody fast last season. They were quite a dominant force early on. Do you think that they've stepped up? Before you answer that, I'm just going to say Adam Morris on the line here says fantastic results for the Blues yesterday. Well, at least Peter Kay's got another comedian on his side for his comeback gig from yesterday. Yeah, very funny, Adam. That back at those players. Thoughts on Ashley Barnes? Thoughts on Leicester for the season? And also, you were mentioning Kylian Iheanacho, who's now 25, 26. It seems like he's taken 24 years to actually grow into himself. Yeah,
I think he always needed a club that had belief in him to keep playing him. As strikers need confidence. They need to play consistency to find that touch, that finesse, to get it in those moments when it turns up, not to clench, not to be free as possible in your mind without thinking of yesteryear. Like in those moments of pressure, these are high concentrated pressure moments, thoughts come in the way. And if you don't think, you perform, you do well. There's been lots of people that we know, like Sterling, for example. I remember a few years ago, he was like that, where he used to run in front of the ball, and the moment he had to stop and think, he'd miss. If he didn't stop and think, boom, wonderful goal. Iheanacho is a different type of player. He gets confidence from different areas. One of his strengths is his link-up play that he has. So he's a good holding player. He's a good a player to knock the ball forward to, who will then play off with Vardy and play off with the midfield like Maddison and so forth. Yeah. But the other strength is scoring the actual goals themselves. Now, when you're scoring a penalty, England found that out in the finals.
And that's
when you're scoring a
left-footed, clear, high, right inside the penalty.
A lot of players don't have the bottle to go high.
Yeah.
Trust me, they don't. They normally knock it around about a foot off the ground when it's left or right. And they try, it's a clumsy attempt to actually get it into corner. He did the perfect thing to make sure at least it was going to have to be the goalie's going to have to do something to stop it. Right? And by making it high, it meant that basically he kept away from the side, so there's no chance of it. Even if it drifted, it'd be beautiful. If it didn't drift, he clenched it, then it's going to be tough on the goalkeeper. But he's played for Man City before, probably not with his goalkeeper. I think he took it exceptionally well. Yeah. And I think that joy...
was a really good game. I thought when I was watching the game, you know, Saffron, I think, would probably get into 2/3 of the Premier League as a goalkeeper. And it almost felt at Wembley he was going, come on, this is my chance. I'm going to show it.
He got it.
And when
He almost got it.
By sticking the foot
Wow.
out.
I think if he'd got that save.
He looked confident for that penalty.
I think for that save, had he saved that goal, the thing about football is all about momentum.
Yeah.
And Man City on the 89th minute is their goalkeeper that pulls them out the bag. That would have got everyone riled up, got them woken up.
First game of the season if he'd saved that.
They needed someone to pull them up by their bootstraps. And today nobody was doing that. And I think if he'd stopped that goal, then it would have been him. You know, like the Schmeichel effect. When he does a save, he pumps the whole team up.
Oh, he did it in the cup final.
That's right. So now that was Stefan's goal. He almost got to it. He almost became a hero. Because can you imagine if he'd done that and then revved up the team, knocked the ball forward, you know, a minute later, bang, they're knocking a goal.
Yeah, and his career would happen. We talked off air about the goal, and I know Roy Keane, don't like Roy Keane. I have to say, don't like Roy Keane. Never forgiven him for Alfie Inge Haaland. He's a psychopath. But he said Aki gets bored, and that was a bored touch. You know, was it all Aki's fault, or was it a boring touch from Rodri going backwards or not going forwards?
Okay, two things there. One is, I think if you watch the game earlier, before, this is the 89th minute, right? 88th minute. But for the rest of the match, you would often see Aki being out of position. You'd see him not following, you know, the threat, letting the threat go behind him, around him, and so forth, right? Yeah. And then forcing the left back to have to come in and leave the midfield players, which can come in for a late attack. So that makes more pressure on them. So this is what Aki was doing all throughout the whole game, and I was like getting really annoyed with him, right? Yeah. And the partnership in the middle did not work 100%. Those two did not look like they were working together. They look like they're totally separate.
Not a good act.
No, not at all. You could see that plainly. Mendy's playing some other game, and Aki was like trying to play three people's game, and that was the problem. You can't be three people. I know you got a brain in your head, and you're aware of the problems, but you can't be in three positions. So this is where his lack of, I think, leadership skills comes in a little bit, because you should be able to bully the other guy to make him do what you want if you got the brains, right? So he didn't do that. So when that situation arose, he was, instead of ball watching, he was busy trying to direct where the ball should go. Right? Now, this is not just his fault. This is also the fact that Rodri got the ball and his body language was completely wrong. He grabbed the ball and he was already facing back before the ball literally got there. And every other Man City player was facing forward. So that was clearly the wrong thing to do. What are you doing? That the mentality there was hold the ball rather than score a goal. You know, your 88th minute, you should be thinking, I got to get the ball, I got to move it forward. That's if you're in the plan with the rest of the team. So like I said, there was a certain leadership missing from the whole team to force people to think like that. So Aki's not ball watching. He's looking somewhere else, trying to tell Rodri where the ball should go. He's being that director, right? But the problem is the leadership skills means that the other players do not feel it. If they felt it, they would have known. He didn't know. Rodri passed the ball back.
Fernandinho and Diaz were on the pitch for pretty much 90 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're good players.
To have Diaz and Rodri and Fernandinho should be a pretty solid spine.
Yeah. Something's off in that central defense in terms of who's got the power. Clearly. For Diaz is an exceptional player. Come on now. But so the thing is that when Rodri passed the ball back, he was looking the other way. And his sweep to sweep the ball left, which is a clever thing to do, let it go across the body, sweep left. I think he took his eye off the ball again, and he swept over the ball rather than at the ball. The ball was on the ground. His foot was a foot over it. And if he'd done it properly, there would be no danger. Then on top of that, he realizes that next man's got over him. He then tries a silly attempt to say, oh, look, I'm falling over and I got a fumble. No, it's a second action where you're kicking out at another player in between his legs. That's a red card as far as I'm concerned. But unfortunately, it's just a penalty.
Yeah.
You know, that's dangerous play. Studs on the inside of someone's legs. No, that's dangerous, mate. I'm sorry. He got away with that one.
And another key eventuality, I'd love your thoughts on this. I think 60 odd minutes and Jack Grealish comes on. I think he's only been a City player for 24 hours. And he comes on, Alice band and all. We all thought he'd got a sensible haircut. And there he is back with the Grealish curtains and the Alice band coming on, looking like, you know, the ball is glued to his feet. He has got, I mean, I personally, I didn't want City to spend all that money on Harry Kane. Boy, I wanted them to sign Grealish. I always wanted to sign Grealish. I think he's a player, you know, occasionally, almost like once in a generation, a player of that level of gift comes along. And to have him at 25 years old now, to know that we may have 7 years of an absolutely gifted player. We've got hard-working players, but to have those sort of gifts, I'm so excited.
Creamy quality. Creamy quality, I call it. Creamy quality. That finesse on the ball. He's matured. His body looks bigger. Like he's worked it out gradually over time since the boy that we tried to sign. When Levy only needed like 15, 25 million to buy this boy.
I know everybody Spurs tried to buy him.
Yeah. I mean, no, we literally we were at the situation where it was under the new leadership was changing for Aston Villa. And we'd agreed a deal with the previous administration. And they turned around and said, okay, if the new administration comes in while this deal is still going, you have to stick another £5 million on top. So this was the agreement that was made. So signed and dusted, right? Yeah, the player was ours.
Yeah.
Right. What happened is new administration did come in. And then when Levy was asked to trump up the next 5 million, he turned around and said no.
Yeah. Sometimes he is penny wise and pound foolish.
It's whatever the dealings was inside people's and recruitment teams' minds is of little matter right now. The point is right now is that Man City have got themselves an exceptionally polished article, and I think you're right. The number of years he's going to service that team, he's basically going to become like a De Bruyne on the left wing. I mean, this is a future England star, especially for the England team, where he hasn't paired as much as he should have. And I think playing for Man City is absolutely a no-brainer now for him to be in the England squad.
And, you know, we've got a World Cup year coming, next year? The winter of a year or so's time. And I was thinking, those other international teams, they won't know him. You know,
no, they won't.
If you're playing a Germany or Spain or even one of the South American teams,
they won't know him.
Underestimate him.
No, they will underestimate him.
Yeah.
Primarily because when you have because I'm in this country and I know Grealish very well. Supposing I didn't, suppose I'm from another country, you would know about this person, but you wouldn't know about him in the clever way that he is. Yeah. So he would fool you. He would fool you. And the thing is, this guy, that's what he does. His number one game is to fool the opposition. Look at his face. You know, this bit of hair on his eyes. Whenever you watch the game, I look very carefully, and I see like this guy does not show the emotion when he's playing. He has a look on his face, and it's constantly deceptive. You have no idea what he's going to do, left or right. So like it's almost Mahrez-esque. Yeah. Mahrez is like the polished article, you know, right at the top, finesse and all the rest of it.
He's almost Hazard-esque at his prime, and Hazard was the most fouled player in the Premier League, and he's picked that mantle up.
Yeah, Hazard has picked up the mantle of being the most. I think Zaha.
Really the team as well.
I think Zaha was like the one that was currently in the Premier League was the one that was most fouled before. But in terms of comparing him to what was that boy from Chelsea you just mentioned a minute ago? Hazard. Yeah. I don't have fondness for Hazard because of some of the comments he's made against my team, especially when we were going up against Leicester. Memories are coming back now. Interviews and people breaking polite protocols.
I thought he held Hazard was brilliant in an almost Dalglish-esque style.
No, Hazard has
and being able to turn on a sixpence.
No, you're right. But Hazard is,
and he's a lazy boy.
The problem with Hazard is he's more like a Tevez, more like a Maradona in terms of that machine, that train that goes through and plows through people. Whereas if you look at if Grealish, on the other hand, he's more of a glider, very different because he's taller as well. So he's different. You're right in terms of how you leave people behind or alternatively get fouled, right? Which is very important. You want around those areas just outside the goalkeeper's points, right? Yeah, you want someone to get you a free kick there. So you can curl the ball in, you know, big players get in there, do a set play or two, you know, do the West Ham way or something.
A couple of pointers coming up here from our friends. Gemma says Brendan is quite underrated in his delivery of tactics, especially against top 6 teams. Thoughts?
I think the problem that we have here in the Premier League is that we remember when he was at Liverpool and towards the end, and the bittersweet taste that everyone had in their mouth when they lost out at the end. And, that was then. He's changed an awful lot since then. He's gone to Celtic. He basically understands how to get over the line now. And that's what he failed in doing there. So he is tactically quite astute, right? He is definitely. He's mixed with the best of them. This boy, Brendan's been around places. He knows all the top managers and all the top theories. He understands them all. And he understands how to develop
youth. Like a
youth.
Student of the game as well.
Oh, definitely. He's a student of the game. He's got amazing charisma. And that really, really helps when you're trying to pick up the troops that you have. Tactically, he can only play with what he's got. And I think getting over that line, now he's done it with Leicester. I mean, let's face it, when he picked up with Leicester, right, no one really had the expectation of them being able to perform the way they currently have been. Right? The FA last year, Community Shield last year. They got 2 cups, plus on top of that, they got Premier League before Brendan got there. So, he's walked into a team and taken them up.
For 80% of the season. 80% of the season they sat in the top 4.
They just happened to be higher up the table for that period of time because not all the teams have played everyone else. The table at the end of the season does not lie because you have to play other teams.
The depth of squad couldn't keep them in it.
Yeah, that's clearly the biggest problem even Spurs had, for example, when they were under Poch. They didn't have the depth of squad. If they did, they could compete more. With Leicester, on the other hand, I think what they're doing is correct. They're not trying to overstretch themselves. And they're building up the cupware, which is, the cabinets are important. Honestly, a Charity Shield may not be much to some of the other top teams out there, and Pep didn't look like he was too bothered that he lost it. But the thing is, for the other younger teams,
he didn't even bother with a collared shirt and tie.
No, but with the younger teams.
Mike's comment here. Mike says, one of your mates, you can't read too much into the Charity Shield. City below strength. They always take a couple of months to get into the swing of things. Yes, technically you're right from last season, Mike. I bloody hope they do get into the swing because you can never promise that purple patch again that City had. No,
they've well. The thing is, remember that time when they beat the first time they beat Liverpool, before Liverpool won the league, right?
Yeah.
To talk about a purple patch there.
Yeah.
They beat them by not losing a single blooming point. Right, so they had to do something similar where they got going, and once they got going, they went outside. So City has the pedigree to perform in that level. They need to get going. Now, initially, right now, it's almost like a friendly. And the thing is that I saw the interview afterwards with Pep, and halfway through the interview, the second half of it was incredibly loaded answers that Pep was giving towards everyone from the questions that were being asked. And it didn't take a scientist to figure out exactly what he was saying. I mean, basically turned around and said, listen, if they don't give me the striker that I want, I'm going to play this team for the rest of the season with no striker. Right? That's an ultimatum. So it kind of brings me on. So first game of the season, away at Spurs, with the crowd. The crowd will be going absolutely ballistic on that game. And I've been to the new stadium, and the noise that booms out of that stand is something else. It's the best acoustic ground that I've ever been to, in my opinion. Spurs fancy it? Fancy the chances of a 3-point start? Well, can I refer you back to that interview? No Foden. Let me refer. Look, they've been preparing for that game for a long time, right? Both teams have. Okay, correct. So. The second half of this interview I spoke about with Pep, don't forget that's something which is interviews that managers do. They also play a psychological game as well. So he turned around and pretty much said in the second half of the interview, the 3 points are in our pocket. Nuno, what are you going to say, mate? Right? So this is where the games are already started to being played. Right, he's already turned around to the. Now, I'm a bit worried after yesterday. No, it's games. It's pure games because I've seen other teams do it in other seasons where they're about to have a crunch game, and what they'll do is they'll start talking about their star player. But in terms of, and then it's unhinging. Would he need to play games if he was confident he'd win?
because when the City go on a run and they're playing beautiful football, he tends to go a bit quieter.
Yes, he does. They all do. This is basically Spanish mentality of life. You look at the coaches out there. This is pretty much what they do. Mourinho does the same thing.
Yeah,
Mourinho's team the other day, right? Yeah, they lost 5-2, and 3 people got sent off, including himself and one of his assistant coaches, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And like when they know the situation's bad, like it's a culture of them to say, okay, let's kick off something else, right? Yeah, and distract everyone.
Yeah.
And you know that type of thing. And he has that built into him. It's a natural defense mechanism. You know, it is what it is.
Moving on, our friend Armandi. Hi guys, the evolution of footy is a great thing, and this is a very interesting point I'm going to put you. Pep's style is being countered. Great win, good discussion, guys. Now, I read lots of reports and thoughts of pundits on the Euros, yeah? And one title, I think, in the comment, I think it was the Sunday Times, said, "Tiki-taki football is dead." What the Euros showed was that incisive, quick-breaking teams. And I think they cited the likes of Switzerland and, oh God, my memory's gone already, Denmark, etc., as being very successful at that football. And actually, they broke tiki-taki football in this summer's Euros. Is that
okay?
Is that going to be the shape of things to come for this season? Is it going to be punishing quick break football that wins the league?
It's already here. You saw an example of it in the final. You'll probably have seen an example of it with the Arsenal match as well with Tottenham, because they've adopted the same type of thing, and that is basically medium low blocks. Okay, and when the ball goes out wide, one of the midfield players it'll be like a pincer attack that will pop the ball out. Then the break happens. Now the break is very simple. It's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. It's always 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
It cannot be 4. Right. So within two passes, you're in the front. He takes one touch, bang, and that's exactly what Vardy did in the first half. You see Tottenham do it against Arsenal, where it came up to the pivot to Moura, and then he passed it on. This is England did it as well, mainly because you had the players that could perform at that level where they can drop in from the front. They can drop in and become an extra man. In the midfield, as the ball is not with them.
Saka was doing that well.
Yeah. So, which means that you get congestion. Now, what's happening is that the defensive unit, because they're on the attacking side, and the person that normally would mark, he's drifted off to probably help defense. They hang around. They don't know whether to go forward or back. They leave a gap. So what happens is when the ball gets pinged out because it's been pincered and popped out of the attack, that's when the first person will look up. You clearly see it time and time again. The first thing they do is look up. They're not looking for 1, they're looking for 2. 1, 2. So they'll pass the ball to 1. He will then quickly pass it on to 2's way, and they will run in, do 1 touch, whether they're going left or right, boom, in the back of the net. Less possession, more incisive passing, better results.
Yeah. I think you're right. We saw that. We saw that in the FA Cup final as well, and we saw Chelsea do it to City in that way. So it'd be interesting. Moving on to the beautifully magnanimous and totally impartial Mr. B. You know, being very objective, says, "Big up Rodgers." Well, we did say he's doing a great job. He's developed well. Hey, so glad City got nothing. Well, up yours.
They got an interview. Look, they were in the final, right? Yeah. Look, Pep tried to answer the question, right? Yeah. Do you feel disappointed that you didn't win it? And he turned around and basically said, no. Do you think you deserve to win it? Right.
Yeah.
Right. And he turned around and basically he's been in enough finals to know the real truth, and that is any team that goes to any final deserves to win it. Whether it doesn't matter which team it is. They deserve to win it because they're there. They earned the right to be there, and only by being there can you win it. Right? You didn't. Even if the team gets battered 6-1 in the final, it doesn't matter because that team had to beat other teams to get there. They could any team at any time, any final. Look at Wimbledon back in the day when they took on Arsenal. Any team on the final can win on his day. So I think Pep answered it straight where he said, "Look, you know what? We're concentrating on this. There was good play. There was good this." And for him, like I said, he treated it like a friendly.
A quick question here from Armandi. Interested in your views. I have a view on this, but who are the best British managers in the Premier League? Brendan and Moyes, can they manage top clubs? Have they got what it takes to manage City, United, even an Arsenal, a Spurs, a Chelsea? Have those two got it? Or are they always going to be the sort of managers that have a good season and they might get into the Europa League on a really good season?
It's a loaded question, right? It's basically a misunderstanding of how football works. When England back in the day, they had some superstars in their team. They decided to employ this Italian, forgotten his full name, big forehead, £6 million a year contract.
Yeah.
Razzmatazz. He's a proven winner. Okay. Can you remember the name at all? England manager, glasses, speaks 6 different languages. Capello, that's the one. That was the first time England FA decided to pay £6 million, like a lot of money, to a manager, and they brought him in with the full hopes. Now, there's a proven success, proven serial winner. Didn't do it with England. Okay. Now, if you look at Brendan, if you look at Brendan and you look at Moyes, right? I mean, what's the best team in this country that has been proven time and time again? Man United. I'm sorry, but I know that people go up and down, and Man City's in the tendency. No, even if you look if you look at Man City in the ascendancy, it has to be proven of. Let's face it, Man United, even by playing crap, end up second in the league. Think about that for a second. Second or third. I mean, even while playing crap, they end up second or third. Just imagine if they got themselves together and actually did something proper. So my point is, that's when you're going to get competition. That's when you're going to get. In fact, that will make your team better, because one of the biggest problems you have as a team, right, is you fill it up. You got brilliant stars. They get stagnant. They get stale. They're not willing to turn up for this charity shield. Come on. Someone should have been in there trying to break someone's leg or something, right? And Leicester looked like they were much more up for it as a collective team, and they enjoyed every bit. Every time they did a block,
and the fans seemed to enjoy it more.
Brilliant. So as far as I'm concerned,
I read an interesting article, and it was really on the back of the Olympics. For all the sports, it's been an incredibly exciting time, and the swimmers have overachieved, the equestrians have overachieved, and everyone said the rowers have underachieved. And they got rid of a guy who's 74. I think he's a New Zealand guy who was an absolute bully, a directional, almost masochistic coach who pushed them to another level. And James Cracknell had to go back at them, etc. And they really said that, this sort of more softy, I don't want to use the word woke, approach is not enough to get gold medals. So it will be a very interesting season for me, because Alex Ferguson undoubtedly is a directional bully of the first order, like that coach that he described as the rowing team. Clearly, Ollie is not. I don't think Brendan particularly is. I think he rants a bit more than that. The Scandinavian Eriksson or Gunnar Solskjaer, can you win the Premier League without being a bloody bully? Can you get gold medals in the rowing without being a bloody bully?
I don't know about the rowing, but in football, for sure, you can't win it without bullying. That's for sure. On a regular basis, that is. It's one of the requirements. Okay, fair enough. You could do an experiment without, like, for example, pizza with Leicester. But on the whole, 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10 mostly, the team that's got that veracity, like when Liverpool wanted to win, right, what did they do? They got 2 wing backs, right, that were absolutely going to either skin the opposition, make them look stupid, rub it in, trip them up, annoy them, foul them. When they got Thiago into the midfield the first thing he did was go and kick Kane. The second thing he did was kick Kane. The third thing he did was kick Kane again. Keep kicking until you get yellow card, and then tell them. Now that's the type of mentality of the top teams, that they will do fouls with a finesse and quality at the right times.
Intelligent fouling. Than Fernandinho when it comes to that art.
No, that's right. So if you look at it, that's right. So if you look at the top enforcers in the Premier League, they've always been from the top clubs. Whether they're Vieiras, whether they're Nutters from Man United, Keown, for example, or whether that other guy from Arsenal. This is generally the trait that you need if you want to win in the English style of playing, the ferocity, the speed that we play at. This is what you do need. It's the ultimate expression of that, the ferocity at which we play.
When Spurs going to find that player? Because it certainly has never been Sissoko. It's never looked like Ndebele. Who's the Spurs?
No, you saw it.
Bully?
Okay. I'll give you the answer in two parts.
Spurs, I thought Enderbelly was going to be it.
No, I'll give you the answer in two parts. One was basically okay, forget the first one. If you saw today's match, right? So Jose turned around. This is the first part. Jose turned around in the Amazon documentary and said to the players, "You're nice guys." He goes, "You cannot win if you're nice guys. You have to be a bunch of so-and-sos." Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that was, now put that in the back of your mind. Now come forward. If you come forward now, if you look at today's match between the derby between Arsenal and Tottenham, there was a lot of mental warfare going on, aggressive mental warfare. At the beginning, Arsenal were trying to give it to Tottenham players. Then Tottenham players started to give it back. So you're someone like Højbjerg, for example. The guy will be bleeding on the pitch.
Yeah,
he will still be like a general. Yeah. So there was an incident that
lacks a bit of skill, but he's tenacious.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that he won't pull out. He'll always try to sniff out, and he won't give quarter, and he'll back up his teammates. That's what you need as an enforcer. Now, when you look at, for example, Arteta,
rough boy.
But if you look at today's incident where Arteta said something to him, and Højbjerg came back to him and stood in a way in front of him to say, "What are you going to do? What are you going to say?" And Arteta's body language, his shoulders shrunk in a little bit. So
yeah,
this is when you talk about when Spurs are going to do it.
Imagine him doing that to Pep. Pep would have had him by the throat. He'd have been off in 5 minutes.
Well, that's the thing about it, is that Pep understands that, and you wouldn't need to go into that type of fiasco. When people are not natural at that, and they try to do it and get called out, like Arteta did clearly. Højbjerg called him out. You think you're an enforcer? You're nothing compared to me. What are you going to do? Your players are messing up my players, and when we do it back, you're going to cry about it? You cry, baby. Now go away. So this type of mental warfare, this type of crushing someone's spirit, is what you need if you want to be at the very best, at the top of the Premier League.
I reckon we could sort it. They ought to put us in as joint coaches in Spurs, and between the two of us, I reckon we could have it. By the way, Adam says he loves you and wants to have you children.
Well, I think Adam, if you're looking out there, please press the like if you haven't done already. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't done already. And all the viewers out there, if you haven't come across this channel before and you are viewing it into the future, please click a like and a subscribe and leave a comment if you possibly can. It will help the YouTube algorithm to show this to other people and share it. Just like you enjoyed it, let other people enjoy it. Thank you.
Good stuff. Rob, when we're going to finish any Mo, Adam thinks we got chemistry. I think we got chemistry. I think you're a highly intelligent gentleman, actually, I have to say. A very intelligent guy.
Don't tell anyone.
No, you're a clever guy. You're a good thinker of the game. Premier League is definitely where you have to be intimidating to win. Gemma, you're right. That's the word. Actually, we think we're reasonably intelligent, and Gemma's just nailed us because she's given us the word intimidating.
Absolutely.
Intimidating from the front, intimidating from midfield.
Intimidating before you start.
Intimidating.
Intimidating before you start. You win the game before you start. The old Sun Tzu, first rule of tactics. See if you can win the game without having to kick anything.
I can't remember. I saw some YouTube clips of it was, I think it was Phil Neville, and it was when Schmeichel went to play for Man City. Yeah, and he played. He's always been his buddy all those years. And he wasn't having any of it in the tunnel. It was like he'd alienated himself. He hated him. And some of that, when you see some of that ferocity in the tunnel, and can you imagine that United team? Teams would have lost before they'd even left the tunnel, with the likes of the Nevilles and Psycho and Roy Keane.
You remember the Pizzagate? There's been so many incidences before teams come out or they're going back for the second half, and it's all part of the pressure of the positions that they're playing in at that particular given time in the season, and the reactions that they need to show the fans and others. And so you get these moments which are highly aggressive, and sometimes you get other people going, I haven't done anything, why you haven't got me? No, it's a ploy, it's a play.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at Amondi's comment here. Spurs ain't had that sort of play since Dave Mackay and last won the title, which is funny because one of my favourite movies is The Damned United. And do you remember the bit where Brian Clough signs Dave Mackay into the Leeds team? And I think it's Peter Saylor says, "Fucking hell, he must be 105 years old. What are we doing?"
Listen, look. I think I think if
No,
you
he was
look,
into
if
the
you look at it
Derby
that way,
team, wasn't it, when he won?
yeah. If you there's okay for me personally, the way I look at it, if you want to have a championship winning team, you need to have two basic qualities. One, which you just clearly highlight, the right mentality. That's got to be there. You know, you're going to win because you told yourself you're going to win. You know, like Ibrahimovic, right? Yeah, he used to do with Man United and other places. He has a mental thing to say, I'm a winner inside. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. The second thing you need, right? Yeah, is you need you need your team to concede the least amount of goals to create a high enough goal difference.
Yeah.
If you look year in, year out, you'll find the teams with the highest goal differences generally tend to be right at the top of the table, and the ones which don't are at the bottom. So this is an indicator of how good your defense is, whether you allow.
Ruben Diaz almost delivered that on his own shoulders last season. Since the second they signed Ruben Diaz, I can't even hardly remember a goal we conceded apart from the bloody Champions League final.
I think you've had strong defensive units in the past, notably the Belgium captain.
Company.
You know, and I think to a certain degree, no, before that, your star defender that left to become a coach or something in Belgium.
Yeah, Vincent Kompany. Is that Andrew?
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that. Vincent Kompany. Now, basically, when Man City started to go on the ascendancy, Vincent Kompany was one of those purchases that had been made along as a transition period from before. So it wasn't like the Galactico purchase. It wasn't like you were getting someone like, you know, some big up name from Italy somewhere, some Torlini, whatever. So he stepped into that position, and when they won, he showed massively. When Leicester won the Premier League, it was Morgan from the defense who stepped forward, right? Wes Morgan,
magnificent.
Now, right. So do you understand what I'm trying to say now?
Yeah.
When Liverpool, sorry, when Tottenham had the best defense in the league in 16-17, right? Sorry, I did beg pardon.
When Ledley King was playing for Spurs.
No, that was an earlier time. What I'm talking about with Vertonghen and Alderweireld. In 16-17 season to 16-17 season, we had the best defense in the league. That's why we were so close to winning the title, because we had now. So you have to nail down that. Plus, you have to be aggressive. So I think we lost out on the title because we weren't that aggressive enough. But that season, do you remember the match of what we had at the Bridge? We went for Chelsea hard, and they went for us harder, and it ended up being a draw. So, you know, by us drawing, we lost the title. So if we'd been even harder than Chelsea, like we were hard, but we weren't hard enough. And I think that was the nail in the coffin for us. So yeah, Loho is Gary Neville, ruthless.
Finish the show off looking. You know, we did. I'm finishing where I started. It's always been known as the curtain raiser to the season. First few games, how do you think it's going to go? If you were going to predict after, let's say, 5 games, who'll be the top 3 or 4 in the top in the first 5 games?
If you, I think. Look, I'm a Spurs fan, right? So this is going to sound really awful, but I always predict that we're going to beat City 4-1. Because we have the capacity to turn one over City, because they, for some reason, we're City's bogey team. If you look back in the history of the last few years, you find for some reason, don't ask me why, but somehow we beat you every now and again in the league, right? Yeah, not in a final, not in a final, not in a crunch match in April.
When Aguero early on penalty and then they get a player sent off after bit.
VAR will jump in. You know, VAR will jump in and say Sterling's goal is not valid. Aguero's offside or some crap, right? Yeah, and somehow we win, right? And it's just amazing how we do so. So I think to a certain degree, Man City is going to go through that slow transition period. So their first 5 games are going to put them around about 5th or 4th, right? The early runners are going to be all the bright teams that had plenty of time during the summer to prepare their teams. They're going to come out of the blocks, right? Yeah, they're going to be out with new tactics. They're going to new plays, and the more mature teams are going to, the top teams, they're going to say, "Hold on, how do we deal with you guys?" So they're going to end up with turnovers and draws.
They were like a ferret out of a drain pipe last season, Southampton. I think they were like top of the league after about 8 or 9 games, if I remember. Southampton and Leicester were right up there. So I'm just now trying to reflect. Who's a well-rested team who could get out of the blocks fast? I mean, maybe the new Aston Villa might surprise us. Again, they were good from the onset. I don't know.
Here's the problem with Aston Villa.
Who's going to be out of the blocks? Who's going to be
It
that
can't be.
Italian
It can't be.
American sprinter who won the 100 meters? Who's going to be that guy?
I think I think you're wrong with Aston Villa because they've got a big problem, and that is they relied upon one guy. He's now left. They need a new system. So while they're building that new system,
he's injured.
Well, fair enough, but I get that. But the thing is, at the end of the day, they're still going to have to prove it without him. If you take him away from the team from last year, what have you really got? Fair enough, they may be able to get survival for Premier League, but that's not really what they're after. They're after progression, top 10 and so forth. Yeah, and they held that position quite handsomely last season. You saw that, right? But then towards the end, and without him, they have to find their way. Leicester is more one of those teams who've already got the confidence, and they've already had a pre-match like this Charity Shield. So expect them to do good things like they did last season. I expect that to continue. Really, I want to see what Leeds does this season. I want to see what Bielsa does because he's building a team. He's building something. I would not underestimate this guy. Seriously, if he had the players at his disposal who are programmed in the system that he wants to play them with, really worse with it, that it could scare. I'm telling you, it would scare the other teams. Like this guy's a genius. I'm not even joking. There's been so many managers, top managers, who is like his disciples. You know, even Poch, for example.
Yeah. It's almost a cult. It's an interesting one. You're right. It's almost like a cult, like a religious cult.
Klopp, I think Klopp with Liverpool, right? Yeah. The defensive units are coming back. Remember I told you about defense? The only problem is,
are they fit enough?
There's been
to hit the blocks?
The problem is that on the left wing, Robertson is out. Right, it's serious injury, ligaments, right, ACL or something or another.
Is it really?
And the other problem,
made a joke on the banter group saying he's Scottish, he'll get over it. But is he that injured?
Well, we'll see. The thing is, he ain't going to be running around at full speed at the first game. That's for sure. You said the first 5 games. So the way I look at it is that the other problem that Liverpool's got is that they've had a bit of humiliation on the right back, where he should have been a star player in the Euros and didn't get that opportunity.
Good at the end of the season.
He did, but the problem was, like I said, he would have had the opportunity to be a star player in the Euros. He didn't get the opportunity. He lost out. So it's a bit of a sour taste in their people's minds. So he's starting off the season without spark.
Alexander-Arnold will have something big to prove there.
He will, but he's also starting from further back, though.
Could be, but he'll be fresh as hell.
He'll be freshish because don't forget he was injured.
Interesting. I was reflecting on last season. And actually, in the first half of the season, these teams, all Leicester did incredibly well. West Ham did incredibly well. Wolves did incredibly well.
They tapered off at the end.
Southampton did incredibly well. There were a whole series of teams who, in the first half of the season, were awesome. And they all fell away. And eventually, it was the normal procession took play. But at Christmas, we were thinking, we're going to have some surprise Champions League cases here, but it didn't quite happen. I always believe I think the depth of squad starts to tell in February.
Absolutely.
And the luck. Southampton got shit luck in terms of injuries. I remember also they could hardly put a team out once. And the last, there's another word to use in here. What will COVID do? Is COVID going to give us a trick in the tail?
I think. Look, the second part of what happens in February is the mental fatigue of having to rejuvenate yourself inside, right? And basically, what happens is that if you're being successful, then you get this energy coming from outside, from the fans, from the media, adulation, so forth. It lifts you up. It gives you the energy.
That's another factor that could really help Spurs, because a lot of the teams that you could actually challenge that. Man City won the league last season and were probably, of the top half a dozen teams, the team that least rely on their crowd noise because they're a family club. The teams that will get more noise and more wind in the sails will be Liverpool, Anfield, at Old Ground with all that sort of noise. Spurs, because it's beautifully acoustically designed. There will be some teams who get a ripple, but the other one, you're right. Remember, what you've got to remember is those animals at Leeds United ain't at Ellen Road in the Premier League. Going to Ellen Road will be like going into the Lions' den this season. Those Yorkshire lads, they'll be there bare-chested, wanting to fight the world from the crowd. The noise Leeds United will get in that cult there. A couple of things from Gemma in here. Trent Alexander-Arnold was making some beautiful crosses and some crucial blocks in defence this afternoon. Don't you worry. And On the other side flank, she says, Robertson walked off but needs a scan. I can't even pronounce what.
Timascus. Simicas.
Simicas has been a star player pre-season, so we'll see.
You know what I know about Simicas? Lovely player.
Here. I really like this phrase. After Liverpool pre-season last week, Klopp said, on the pitch, you are either the team that is confident or the team that is nervous. If you are the nervous team, you will lose, which is an epitome of what you were
100%.
saying.
100%. And the thing is, Klopp is, when he came into the Premier League, you could hear him saying this from the very beginning, a clear message of how do you win without being a complete biscuit cake.
And
he
Klopp
was basically
is a confident,
ferocity.
cocky bastard.
I think cocky is one thing, but he has that honesty of cockiness, not a badness, which everyone appreciates, which is basically you go in tough, you go in clean. You know, you don't go in reckless.
He's a marketeer as well. He really knows what to say when, apart from when he's losing and he struggles a bit, you know. Afternoon, Errol, sir. Commenting. We're going to need to, we've had the curtain raiser. Let's bring the curtain down. I'll leave you any last thoughts, last words. Charity Shield into the first weekend. Over to you for the last words.
I think the Charity Shield really showed me and gave me belief that the youth that are coming through into the Premier League, they're finding their own, and that makes me excited.
Mr. K, you're special.
Thank you. You're special too. And so is everyone else for watching.
Thank you. Share us, like us if you like us. With Blue Moon Ian and Mr. Special K. Bye.
Bye.